people have said that maybe the ISB feels like it's just run by a few people, but that's an old narrative now. The barn doors are open. Everybody's come in, and we want to see what the next generation of leaders looks like, and certainly the scene has changed a lot.
Today's episode is a deep dive into the International Society of Bassists, where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. I'm Jason Heath. This is Contrabass Conversations, and we are chatting today with Nicholas Walker, president of the ISB, and he put out recently in the fall 2018 Bass World Journal a great column just about member expenses, which are surprising. We'll get into this. Donations, how you can help, what we've been doing behind the scenes, and we've been doing a lot behind the scenes. And we haven't really talked about what's been going on with the ISB behind the scenes on the podcast. So this will be a great way to sort of see how a quite radical restructuring has taken place. I want to thank Nicholas for this great idea. And I am also a board member on the ISB, and I've had such a great time getting into the inner workings and seeing the new directions. I think it's really exciting where we're headed. If you are not a member of the ISB, go to isbworldoffice.com and click the join button. We have a link for that in the show notes. And we also have Nicholas's column in the show notes. So definitely read that if you haven't. Super interesting. And I would love to have you as a member. You'll hear in this episode a little Easter egg that I threw in there if you join and get in touch with me. So stay tuned for that. And I'd like to give a shout out to the sponsors that make this show possible. So thank you to Upton Bass, A440, the Bass Violin Shop, D'Addario Strings, and Steve Swan String Bass. More on them later, but let's dig into this conversation with ISB President Nicholas Walker. Well, I'm on the line with Nicholas Walker, president of the International Society of Bassists, has been on the podcast several times in the past, so welcome. Thanks for being back.
Hey, it's great to talk with you always.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been so fun seeing what the ISB has been up to. You know, I've been a member for decades, but recently you put on, along with everybody who was involved, just the most wonderful imaginable convention at Ithaca College in 2017. So it was so cool to be there and be a part of that, and that massive number of bass players that were there. And I'm so pumped about 2019. And I've been having such a great time being involved, getting back on the board as the technology chair and just seeing the behind the scenes of the ISB here right after this 50th anniversary. So I just thank you for what you have done and are doing for the organization. And it's exciting, and a lot of changes are happening and have happened. And I welcome this opportunity to talk about some of what's been going on.
Yeah, well, you've seen it firsthand. I mean, I'll bet it's very different now than when you were on the board in the past, huh?
It is quite different. So there's been quite a bit of restructuring, and I think it'd be interesting because we as a board have been talking about this, and but I think it'd be great to let folks know a bit about what we've done, why we're doing it, what we see for the future, and just dig into that restructuring.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I was on the board for a while before I became president-elect, and then when I became the president-elect, I started thinking through about, how have other presidents done this, and what is my job going to be? And like many people, I really didn't have any experience in that role, chairing a board or leading an organization like that. So I started to do a lot of reading and learning, and wanted to get my chops together for that gig. And first thing that we did was we set up a board retreat in January of 2017 with a woman named Michelle Packard-Milam, who's the CAE of Packard Business Strategies, LLC. Basically, we had a great board meeting with her, and we looked at, board optimization, strategic management retreat, all that kind of stuff. It's not very fun to hear about probably on a podcast, but basically we spent all afternoon, just figuring out what best practices are for boards, and eventually coming up with our 7 horizon goals. Basically, what we discovered was that the very awesome way that the board had been operating for almost 5 decades had such great success that, the ISB had sort of outgrown that very structure, if that makes sense. In other words, it didn't make sense for the board, 20 people to operate as a committee anymore because it's too many people for a committee to be effective. So we knew that we'd need some restructuring, and we came up with also, a strategic plan, which includes 7 horizon goals. Our goals were membership, marketing and communications, publications, conventions and experiences, right? And strategic organizational development stuff, fundraising, and then finance and operations. So, okay, that was great. And then we went forward and had the convention. And obviously I was quite focused on the convention at that time between January and June. But already at June, we had brought some new people onto the board, and we had brought people onto the board who were specialists in this area, right? So we were, we had you and Tracy Rowell and Travis Harrison and Brent Edmondson and people who were really could help us to get our stuff together in very specific areas, After the convention, the thing that we discovered was that we needed to have a strategic planning meeting to figure out how we were going to build things. So we had an extra board meeting in September of that year, and about 6 of us or so met with Madeline and again with Michelle Packard-Milan in Dallas. And we came up with basically a strategic plan. We did an analysis of our strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. That's another sort of corporate thing. We had all these big papers taped all around the room, and we looked at, and I had sent out gathered data from the other board members who couldn't be there and other past presidents, and basically made these huge lists of who we are and how we're structured. And then we took all of those and we distributed them underneath the horizon goals, and came up with some specific action steps and point people to lead on all these different tactics that we had. And there were just, 75 to 100 different tactics. And we started to deploy those to different people. And we got moving really well. I mean, this was just about a year ago that I'm talking about this meeting. By the time we had our board meeting in January of this year, we had made some really huge steps. We had set up a new way of getting together and doing board business outside of board meetings, which is through an online software and app that's called Basecamp. They spell it incorrectly, B-A-S-E instead of B-A-S-S. Yeah. But, Jason, you were very involved in helping make that happen. And we also got this process set up with, instead of just one board, we had different chairs of different teams, and each team could have various projects. And so, we got an advisory board. We have the board of directors and adjuncts. We have a competition team, a convention team, a development team, education team. Of course, there's still the board structure with executive officers and finance team and governance team and marketing team and membership and strategic planning and technology team. So different people were able to fill different roles. And the whole goal of this is that in less than a year, we had moved from being one oversized committee who met twice a year to being a directed network of different smaller teams who could really delve into specific topics and then bring them forward to the board. And the goal behind all of this is that any ISB member can get involved and be a part of something now. You don't have to be a board member to do that. Yeah, so that's the first. It's not very sexy online topic, is it?
Well, but important step. And any organization who's been operating for any length of time, let alone 5 decades, change is a challenge. And so I just having been on the inside of this for the past year and change, I want to commend you for taking that initiative and getting us going in that direction. I really think we're seeing the positive benefits of this functional board structure already. I think it's really a valuable thing to have in place going forward. This episode is brought to you by D'Addario Strings. Our friends at D'Addario want to help listeners change their strings safely and efficiently, and they have a few tricks to help you achieve that. When you pull the string through the peg, twist it around itself a few times before continuing to wind. This pulls more of the string through the peg neatly, and it decreases the likelihood of the string falling out of tension. Learn more at orchestral.daddario.com, and thank you so much for sponsoring the podcast. This episode is brought to you by the Bass Violin Shop, which opened in 2001 as a small double bass workshop in Greensboro, North Carolina. Today, they're staffed by 3 full-time, highly skilled bass luthiers, and they specialize in double bass sales, rentals, setup, restoration, and repair. For nearly 20 years, they have satisfied thousands of clients by offering quality instruments, knowledgeable service, reliable repairs, and superior restorations at affordable prices. They're always happy to assess basses for trade-in, consignment, or even purchasing outright. Contact them to schedule a time to discuss your bass and your future needs. For more information and current inventory, visit their website at bassviolinshop.com and be sure to follow them on Facebook and Instagram. This episode is brought to you by Steve Swan String Bass, which is home to the largest collection of double basses on the West Coast between Los Angeles and Canada. That's a lot of miles, folks. Steve's showroom is outstanding, absolutely worth a visit. It's located just south of San Francisco Airport, SFO, and he has about 70 basses on display. And these basses range from student entry-level instruments all the way to the finest professional instruments. I've sent so many students and referred so many people to Steve's shop. He really does great work. And if you're looking for a bass, you're going to find one that suits your needs, your playing needs, and your budgetary needs for sure. SteveSwanStringBass.com is where you can go. And thank you, Steve, for sponsoring the podcast.
What I'm most excited about is what might come up from the members. In other words, now we have a structure in place so that when somebody has a great idea, it has a place to land. I often hear people say things like, they talk about the ISB, like, how come you don't, such and such, or when are you going to, blah, blah, blah. But, the board, as I always stress, is all volunteers. Nobody gets paid on the board. And we're all, often paying our own way to travel to the board meetings and to make this stuff happen. So there's no, we of course take on the responsibility of managing the organization, but really if somebody has an idea, they should have a place to put it, and that's already started to happen, actually. There's been some really cool things that have come down the pike. Together with Tracy Rowell, we're doing a big fundraising campaign for bringing young bassists to the next convention, and the goal is we have a $15,000 matching grant and that we're working towards, and we might have $30,000 of funds to bring young bassists to the next convention. Another thing, there was some discussion on Facebook about gender inequality in the bass world, and a couple of pretty heated debates that came out in that forum. Well, why not bring that stuff into the ISB? So a bunch of young women who have been really working hard to draw our attention, our awareness to how we can better support women in the bass world. We've organized a project and a team for them and a place for them to come together and connect with some other people in the ISB community and begin a discussion and think strategically about what kinds of work they want to do going forward and what kinds of discussions and how they can reach out and create resources and support and access for female bassists. So that kind of thing has happened. And same thing with projects in the Lutherie world, or some people are passionate about having more access to Hispanic populations and Spanish-speaking people, translating our journals and our websites into Mandarin or into Spanish or into other languages. And so there's been a lot of work there. We've also put together a new operations manual. Hunt Sturm has led an incredible team of people. Some are not even bassists, but just people who are, do best practices for nonprofit organizations and that kind of thing. And we have a governance manual now, and we're updating our bylaws. And so there's a million little things happening behind the scenes that are exciting. And the message I would put out to the people on your podcast is, if there's something you want to be a part of, something you want to get going, a collection of people who want to commission a piece of music, or if you want to do some outreach program, or you want to raise funds and send, strings and materials to Cuba or to Puerto Rico or one of these hurricane-ravaged places, then you can do that. You can show up to the ISB. We can get you involved in a project and a team, and you can get on base camp and get involved. It's not just the board of directors.
Yeah, it's really been exciting to see different people get involved and in some of the projects I've been involved in, the tech side of things. We've gotten people ranging from Jeff Chalmers and Lauren Pierce to getting involved to now Adam Booker, Philip Cerna. There are all these enthusiastic members that are stepping up to get involved and contribute and give back and lend their ideas and expertise. And so it's really exciting. And yeah, that I'd just like to echo that. If you have an idea and you get in touch. You can go to the isbworldoffice.com, and all of the team leaders are listed there, and you can reach out if it's an education project or what have you. Find the appropriate person, and we'll get a conversation going and get you in the loop, get you involved. We'd love that.
Yeah, exactly. We've been hearing people say that, some people have said that maybe the ISB feels like it's just run by a few people, but that's an old narrative now. The barn doors are open. Everybody's come in, and, we want to see what the next generation of leaders looks like. And certainly the scene has changed a lot, right? I mean, the social media, and also there's, frankly, a lot less interest in younger generations in being a member of a society, right, than there were in the baby boomer generation, So there's sort of a shifting landscape there, and it's how do we get members? Because it's not cheap to run this thing. Even though the board doesn't get paid, we have to pay for our magazines and our website updates and our management fees and, a bunch of other expenses. I don't know if you've seen the latest ISB journal, but it costs us something like $89.23 a year per member just to deliver the journals and the websites and all of that. And so all of our membership rates are much lower than that, which means that each member doesn't even pay the cost of membership to be involved. Well, the idea there is that we have other people who give money and donations each year because it's a non-for-profit 501c3. So that helps keep the cost down. And, of course, we're now going to be looking at other ways to keep the cost down. People can opt out of paper delivery. I mean, some people love to have their paper journal in hand, and that's great. We're not bailing on that at all. But for my part, I'm going to opt out of paper delivery because then it saves the cost of printing and shipping that magazine to me. And frankly, I read most of my stuff on a screen these days anyway. And so if other people did that as well, we could save more money and keep the membership dues down. And then we're always doing fundraising for specific initiatives too, which have to do with our mission, which is to inspire, educate, and connect, right? So how do we get more members, and what are the member benefits for those people? These are the discussions that we're always thinking about on the board. And the biggest member benefit that we're all aware of are these convention experiences. I mean, that's really the big one. And there's really nothing like that. Like, who else could organize something like that in the world? You couldn't have a Montreal bass festival that would just, or a New York bass festival. It wouldn't draw the same concentrated groups of people as the ISB, but we can do that thanks to all of the people who have built this before us. And those experiences, I think, are huge for people. They have been for me. They've completely shaped my life, and that's the reason why I'm working for the organization now.
Yeah, there's nothing. I say it every time someone asks me about the ISB, and especially about the ISB convention. Nowhere else will you get to see Christian McBride unpacking his bass as Matthew McDonald's walking out of another room, and there's Rufus Reed and John Clayton over there, and not to mention Gary Carr and Francois Rabath and all those people who are our heroes and mentors. And it's just, there's nothing like that. And I go to a lot of conventions every year. There's nothing like the ISB convention. It's an absolute, and it's a no-brainer if you're looking for an instrument, if you are thinking about going back to school for something, or if you just want to have a knock your socks off bass week, life-changing week. And there's no better value. There's no place you'd rather be than an ISB convention. That's for sure.
Yeah, and not to mention the little kids and the level of the young bassists now is so inspiring. I mean, it's really inspiring. And also, just bass players are fun to hang out with. I mean, it's a blast. It's a great time, and there's a lot of good energy. Incredible things have happened in each of the different departments, from young bassist pedagogy, right, to the art of orchestral playing, to solo playing, of course, always our transcriptions and new compositions, and especially in the lutherie area. This is a great one to talk about because they started this Build-A-Bass thing in Fort Collins, and, there were a group of people came together, and they, instead of building one bass that week, they built almost two. And they shared ideas, and they all, this is a world where I think often there are trade secrets, people don't always talk about how they get their neck to work so well, or I don't know, the table to vibrate so freely. I'm not a luthier, so I don't know about these things, but then they all came together and started sharing ideas. Well, by the time they came to Ithaca, and 2 years later, there were many, many more people involved, led by Paul Hart and Dustin Williams, and they weren't the ones who, made all the choices. They just got the teams together, and it empowered and enabled people, and then everyone started sharing their ideas. And boy, I remember talking with Don Robertson and a few of the other well-established senior specialists in bass lutherie, and they said that the level of the makers competition had just gone through the roof across the board in just 2 years, from just people sharing all these ideas, So what do you think is going to happen in 2019 in Indiana? It's going to be even better. The level is going up. And, now people in the other string areas are looking to this model and saying, what would it be like if all the violin makers came together and started sharing all of their secrets and knowledge? But that's the spirit of the ISB, this openness and this, that's a tangible example of the kind of thing that can happen. But certainly it's what happens in the playing world and in our transcription world and in our understanding of teaching and community work. There's also a lot of people out there working in their communities. So it's really exciting. And, there is something really special about all being under the same roof together. There's an energy that you get from that. So anyway, we're also looking at how could we have more ISB convention-like experiences. We don't really know how to do this yet, but that's another thing in our horizon is, chapters who put on events in Montreal or New York or Berlin or something that somehow linked to the ISB and supported by the ISB and carry the ISB mission and vision, maybe Toledo, Ohio, or someplace, right?
Yeah.
And if we can really create a network and provide resources and contacts, if we can really fulfill our mission of inspiring and educating and connecting people, then I think, we could have more of these hands-on gathering experiences, which, let's face it, in today's day where so much of our interaction is surreal or somehow mitigated by a screen or technology, when we can really be in the same space together, that's when powerful things, meaningful things happen between people, especially in the realm of music and sound, right?
Whenever anybody's going to the Midwest, and I lived in Chicago, Illinois for years and years, I tell them to go to A440. If they're looking for a bow, if they're looking for a bass, if they need some repairs done, if they have a student who's looking for an instrument, A440 has been serving the community for years and years. They're located just west of Wrigley Field in beautiful Chicago. They do great work, and they've been a big supporter of bass events over the years, whether it's the Chicago Bass Festival or really any bass event. A440, you guys rock. Check them out at a440violinshop.com. When you've built a reputation like Upton Bass has, the stakes are so high when you send out an instrument to a new owner.
When people open that crate, man, the bar is so high. It doesn't matter if it's a $2,000 laminate bass or it's a $20,000 one-off. The bar is so high. Maybe because of the amount of time we've been doing it, the awards on the wall, the gossip, the reputation, the marketing. But by the time they're opening their crate, they're invested so much into us. They're expecting the world, and we have to meet that expectation every single time.
That's Eric Roy of Upton Bass, and boy, do they meet those expectations that people set. Yes, the bar is high, but it's high because of the quality of work they've done over the years. They stand behind their products, and they have so many loyal fans, including me. Check them out at uptonbass.com, and thank you so much for sponsoring the podcast.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing like in-person experiences, and I think that they're even more valuable in our tech-driven world. And I've had the experience at ISB conventions. I'm sure you have too. But it's funny, these online friendships that you make in through whatever social media network you hang out on. There's nothing like actually meeting those people in person at an event like the ISB. I've met dozens and dozens of people that they feel like old friends, and then you get to spend time with them in person. Check out concerts, go to the Build-A-Bass, and just soak in all that excitement and energy, and go home with enriched relationships. So yeah, those in-person experiences are nothing could replace those. Though we are, like you were saying, exploring different ways to have ISB experiences, whether it's in some sort of online capacity or through events in different countries of the world. So it's those in-person experiences. There's just nothing like them.
Yeah. I mean, and yet how can we get more members? That's the question, because without members, like we can't keep it going. And, I wonder, there's so many great bass players who I meet who aren't members, and I wonder, I guess it's just somehow it was instilled in me by my teachers early on that it's just something that you're a part of. And of course, I got so much out of it for so long that it made sense for me, But I think for a lot of folks, it's just another expense, it's like joining a union or something, and feels like, it can be tough financial times for the freelance musician out there, right?
It can, but an ISB membership is less than my Dropbox subscription for the year. I feel like I get much more out of it. And yeah, it's one of those things that it's been such a major part of my life. The community, being a part of that international bass community, it's really something special. And if you are, what I tell anybody listening to this, if you join and send me a message, I will send you a free t-shirt. So that's something I've been trying to do, little right. Micro incentive to join. If you know somebody that you think should be an ISB member, on the website, you can sponsor a gift membership. And I know that several board members, they'll buy memberships for their bass studio. Those who aren't members, please join. It's great. It's great to be, at these events and a part of this community with Nicholas and myself and everybody else. And if you are a member and what can you do to be an ambassador of this organization? I think that's the other thing that I like to challenge people with.
Absolutely. And also, if you're a life member, please consider making a donation to cover the cost of your membership for the year. A lot of life members might not know that it still costs us $89 to deliver our services to each member, Mm-hmm. So the generosity of becoming a life member some years ago, maybe that was an expression of a devotion to this, to the ISB, like you can count on me forever. But I just asked those people to make a membership. You can make a donation, or you can give a membership to someone else. All of us on the board give extra each year. Yeah, I know the feeling. It's not always easy, but I do think it's something that we have to find as an organization. How are we going to be able to make membership relevant to people? Because there is a feeling now that, well, I have YouTube for free, right? And I can just browse Spotify, and why do I need the ISB? Well, I think as we build more member-driven projects and, our teams take on more personalized and targeted agendas, that come from the members themselves, then I think the ISB can continue to become even more relevant and powerful in people's lives. And also, that's the question. Can you imagine what our instrument would be like today without the ISB? I mean, if you flip the lens on that, gosh, what compositions do we have? What leaders do we have? What kind of pedagogy do we have? What sort of Luthery has developed? It's almost an unimaginable world. And, the other instruments are hugely jealous of us. I mean, they don't have this kind of ethos, this kind of family open sharing of experiences and that we have. And from the multi-genre, multicultural, even the word, fusion or, crossover doesn't really apply in Bass world anymore. Everybody is a crossover, everything, Mm-hmm. It's just a really special environment. What would today look like for you and your podcast, Jason, without the ISB?
Oh yeah, no, it's I do what I do because of the ISB. I remember becoming a member when I was, I think, 14 years old was when I started, and I remember getting those publications and reading through them and feeling that sense of community and belonging. I grew up in South Dakota, off the beaten path, kind of, and it felt like it connected me to something greater. And I recently pulled out Gary Carr's, the first publication of the International Institute for String Bass. And it was just so cool to look at that and look at what Gary thought of, what he was conceiving, and the people that he had involved from the outset. And it's so great to see the continuity of that here 50 plus now years later. And it really is something special. It's something that the other instruments just don't have. And it's really something special. So yeah, I can't imagine a world without it. And I think that anybody who's been involved at all can't either.
The thing that always knocks me out about that, what you were just saying, is like, you look at Gary Carr. He's the, come on, especially in that day and age, how many slots for a double bass soloist were there worldwide? Like maybe one.
Right.
And what was his big impulse was to connect and share it with other bass players. Like, instead of just sort of running off and doing his life in a solitary role, he wanted to connect to other bass players. And all the others are like that too. Ray Brown was like that, and Joel Quarrington is like that. And look at any of our leaders. I mean, when Diana Gannett shows up, she wants to connect to other people. It's not enough to just do her brilliant teaching and her beautiful playing and live her life. She wants to reach out to other bass players. And there's something about that at the core of our organization that I think is really beautiful, Okay, some people think you should play in a stool, other people you should stand, and somebody uses this kind of strings, or somebody has their knuckles look like that, and, underhand, overhead. There's all kinds of stuff that we can get caught into the minutia, but the underlying ethos of our organization is about connection and sharing. And so, the question is, how do we reach people with this technologically shifting world here? In some ways, it's so easy to reach so many people, but in some ways, the ease of that undermines the perceived need for an organization itself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the tricky thing. And that's something that any sort of membership organization is struggling with here. And membership organizations, like Nicholas was just saying, the $89.23 a year that it costs per member just to do what we do, which is higher than the membership. It just shows that membership organizations, the way that they survive and thrive and move forward is through donations. Donations are what make this all work. So whether you're a life member or new to the ISB or anywhere in between, if there's anything you can do in that capacity, that is just so incredibly helpful. And yeah, and in this world of the easy exchange of information, I mean, if you're not following us on social media, follow us, share out what we put out, get involved, whether that's writing to us and sharing an idea or any project idea you might have, or just spreading the word to your colleagues and your students and other people in your base community. All of that, it helps us move forward.
Yeah, and also what I want to say is if you have an idea or you have a dream or a vision, you want to get involved, you want to get a group of people together and work on a project, and you want to do it, in conjunction with the ISB or from inside the ISB, just do it. Mm-hmm. It's your ISB. The whole idea with this new organizational platform is that there's room for tons of teams to be happening and tons of places doing lots of great things, and maybe they don't all have to be overseen by each board member, right? So,
right.
But they, as long as they're carrying the spirit of our ISB family, it's something that we want to be a part of, and we want to do it at our best. And I think we really are at our best when we come together and when we gather. Certainly that's been the most inspiring for me.
Well, I want to again commend you on the gathering that you orchestrated in 2017 at Ithaca College. Just these conventions, you think they can't get any better, but then they somehow get better and better. And I know anybody who attended feels the same way. So thank you for that and what you've done behind the scenes with this restructuring and getting these teams going, and just really appreciate what you've done for the base community. And so just thank you for that. It is a lot of work, and it's volunteer work, like Nicholas said, but it is us trying to give back to this organization that we love and that has helped us so much.
Well, yeah, thanks for that. It's really fun for me. And hey, man, Indiana is going to be really, really great. I mean, John Shimmick and Kurt Maroki, and they've been putting together a really, really beautiful experience for us there. Everybody, you can't imagine how much work goes into something like that. I mean, the stuff that comes across our inboxes each day about the airport map and base storage and shuttle services back and forth, and all the little aspects of room reservations and dining hall access. It's going to be a really fun place. We had our board meeting there in June, and man, the campus is really gorgeous and fun place to be. There's great restaurants and bars right nearby, and beautiful, beautiful performance venues. In fact, we were walking around on the site tour, and we were joking because there'd be like the facilities were so nice and everything was so great that I started to I saw a little shoe scuff on the corner of the trim of the molding of this, and I would look at it sarcastically, say, that's not okay, is it? And it was funny. The chair there would laugh and say, yeah, I'm so sorry, we got to get that tended to. Their chairs would be all lined up in a classroom, and one of them would be a little off kilter, and I would come over and straighten it out as a sarcastic joke about how beautiful and perfect everything was. It's great. I mean, wait till you see the halls and the sound, and it's going to be a great one. We had 1,600 people from 34 countries at our last convention in Ithaca, and for the first time ever, we turned a profit from the experience. Not much, but we didn't end up walking away losing money. And so that helped us with our operational budget that year. And boy, if we can get the right people here at this one, maybe we can surpass that even. That would be so great. So fun.
Yeah, I had such a great time on that site tour, and I can't wait. And it's June's not that far off at the time of this recording, yeah. So we'll be sharing a lot more about the convention coming up. And of course, you want to go to the convention, join the ISB. And isbworldoffice.com/join is the link. Share that far and wide. Again, join if you haven't, or if your membership has lapsed. Send me a message. I'll send you a t-shirt. And Nicholas, thanks for what you do. It's going to be an exciting year.
Thanks for what you do, Jason, and thanks to all the rest of you for what you do. Share it with us. Get involved. Let us know what we can do to facilitate the work that you're doing. And it's not always apparent, the stuff that's happening behind the scenes, but we're working away, and we're doing our best to make a better base world out there.
Thanks for chatting, Nicholas, and really exciting directions for the ISB for sure. I'm having such a great time being involved, and like we were talking about in here, you can be involved. We would welcome your involvement, in fact, and if you have any ideas about any projects that you'd like to see the ISB be doing, or if there's any way you'd want to contribute, writing guest articles or doing something on social media or covering an event that you might be at or bringing some new perspective to the organization, that would be so wonderful. Would love to have you involved. You can reach out to me, feedback@contrabaseconversations.com. You can go to the ISB website, isbworldoffice.com. You have a list of all the board members, all the team members, all the team chairs there, and we'd love to hear from you. It's going to be a great convention at Indiana University in Bloomington for sure. Can't wait to check it out, and I really hope to see you there. And I would so love to have you as a member of the ISB. If you join, send me a message, and I'll send you a t-shirt. Just let me know your size and address, and you'll get that in the mail. Contrabase Conversations is produced by Michael Cooper, Steve Hinchy, Trevor Jones, and Mitch Mooring. Mitch makes beautiful basses, love his basses, in the Dallas area, and learn more at mitchmooring.com. And thank you to Krista Copper for organizing all of the content that we put out here each and every week. It's a mammoth task for sure, so thank you so much for that, Krista. I'm your host, Jason Heath, and we will see you again soon for more life on the low end of the spectrum.